Greetings, salutations, and hi there. Well, this is it, the episode you've all been waiting for. Uh, okay, well, some of you have been waiting for it. All right, nobody's been waiting for it except me. Today, I am finally going to rig the Hasegawa P-12E. Yes, you heard it here first. Rigging is on the way at last. But before I get into that, I'm sure many of you are wondering why a good Canadian boy like me is wearing a Bolton IPMS shirt. Well, I'll tell you. Back in the day, as many of you know, I did live in England for several years, many years. And as I lived in the Bolton area, I joined Bolton IPMS, a friendly club full of lovely people. And I was rummaging through a box the other day and I came across this shirt, so I thought I'd put it on as a little homage to my old club mates and give them a quick hello. So if anybody is watching from Bolton IPMS, hello! How's it going, eh? That's Canadian. As you'd say over there, you all right, mate? So, there you go. That explains their shirt. Let's move on to the rigging. And also, I'm going to have another exciting episode of the Gripe du jour because, well, I'm kind of due for one. So let's crack on, shall we? Now, primarily, I'm actually a 1/72nd scale modeler. That is, I model 1/72nd scale subjects. I personally am not 1/72nd scale, otherwise I'd be very tiny. So, I have a little bit of a confession to make, and that is that this P-12E is actually only the second 1/32nd scale aircraft I've attempted since I were a wee lad. And when I was a wee lad, I rigged them with fuzzy sewing thread, so the less said about that, the better. For 1/72nd scale models, I've always used stretch sprue. It's easy to use, it looks good, it works for me. There are a few examples of 72nd scale biplanes that I've rigged with stretch sprue, and I will be doing a future video on how to do just that. And you may also notice that all of these have carved wooden props, and that will also be the subject of a future video. Now, I do have some of the elastic sewing thread that was favored by Wingnut Wings. In fact, I think you could even buy it on their website. And I have some right here. I got this at a sewing shop in England, but it is the exact same stuff that Wingnut Wings favored. I personally do not like this. I don't think it looks very good. It's like a translucent white color. It is a flat cross section. But one of the things I notice when you use it is that you have to be very, very careful to get it dead flat because even the slightest twist in this will be very noticeable. On the plus side, it was easy to install. It's stretchy, so it doesn't break if you should catch it, being a klutz like myself. But yeah, I just don't think it looks very good. I don't like this at all. So I wasn't going to use this. After much deliberation, I came across photo etch rigging and decided to go with that. I don't like it in the smaller scales. I don't think it looks very good in 72nd scale. It's a bit too heavy-handed. 48th, kind of passable, but 1/32nd scale, I think it's quite ideal. And the stuff that I decided to use, right over here, let's get that, is from RB Productions. That's it there, stainless steel, or it looks like stainless steel, so you don't need to paint it. And it comes in 3 different thicknesses. What do we got here? 9/32 inch BSF wires, which is British standard. And then there's 1/4 inch BSF, and finally 2BA, being the smallest. Now, the smaller sizes you would use for tailplane bracing, maybe landing gear, that kind of thing. The larger wires would be your flying and landing wires for between the wings. So this is what I am going to use, and I'll show you the one other aircraft that I've done in this scale, and just talk about a few things about that and some lessons that I learned from that I'm going to hopefully incorporate on the P-12E. This cute little fella is the Roden Sopwith triplane, the only other 1/32nd scale aircraft that I've built to date, not counting those I, shall we say, butchered as a child, because those are best left forgotten. Anyway, so I did rig this with the RB Productions photo etched rigging wire, and all in all, it turned out well and it's fared well, bearing in mind that this did survive a trip across the Atlantic when I moved from the UK back to Canada. So all in all, I don't think it's doing too badly. I do have some slack rigging I need to fix, and obviously there's a bit missing right there that I have to replace as well. But as I say, there are some lessons to be learned from this. Number one, I didn't make any attempt to rough up the ends of the rigging wires when I glued them in. Now, I had the idea at the time that I would use epoxy because it's a little bit more flexible, a little bit more forgiving than super glue. So I think it has a little bit more overall strength should it get bumped around a little bit. And I haven't changed my mind on that. I'm still going to use epoxy for the P-12E rigging. Now, the other thing is that the wings on this are quite thin, so there really isn't a lot of surface area in there for the glue to grip. Hopefully we'll fare better with the P-12E, which has got far thicker wings than this does. The other thing I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of the end of each wire and just bend it over a little bit, maybe about 32nd of an inch or something. And hopefully that'll act like a barb almost to, again, give a better grip. And hopefully we won't end up with any slack rigging like we did on this one. But yeah, there we are. There it is. Let's crack on, shall we, and see how we fare with the P-12E. Alrighty, ready to get that top wing put on. Got all my deckling done, both sides there and on the bottom. And I took the advice of a couple of viewers from the previous video who suggested that I make my own decal for the rather unique aircraft identification number on the vertical fin. So I have done that and printed them out on a laser printer. And they are much closer in shape and style than the microscale effort. So I'm quite happy with that. Final finish is Tester's semi-gloss clear. Before I did that, I put a dark gray wash into my rescribed panel lines on the fuselage. I'm not sure if that's going to show up, hopefully. There, both sides there. And I've also scratch built a new gun sight. The one in the kit is, not great, and it's got some nasty seams to clean up, so I find it much easier to just scratch build items like that. And I made this one from Albion Alloys micro brass tubing. And also, in the gun troughs there, and I'm not sure if these are going to be visible, hopefully they will be, there's a couple of 303 Brownings made by Master. Now, these are absolutely superb. I know they're made on a computer-controlled lathe and all that, but still, the detail on these things is phenomenal. And so I've used the ones meant for the P-40B, but they had the right type of cooling slot, the oval cooling slot. Interestingly, Master calls them British version, even though they're on an American plane. But what do I know? They worked. They look good. I like them. So that's that. Let's see where we're up to now. Normally at this stage, I would have the horizontal stabilizers on already, but the fit is quite good. And because they're a different color, same color as the wings, I find it much easier to put them on later. And I can rig them at that time as well, obviously. And I have started doing some work on them, however. Here we are here. Oops. So I've got the starting the hinge points there on the stab and the corresponding slots in the elevator. And I've also done my hollowed leading edge, or rather trailing edge on the stabilizer, and the rounded leading edge on this, which when that is better, that'll all fit together as it should. So there we go. Once I've done them, painted them, they can go on later. But for now, let's get that pesky top wing on, shall we? Okay. So I'm going to use tube cement for this little operation here, just to give me more working time and also quite a bit more strength. And I'm putting the glue in the slots because that way when I'm trying to get my struts dropped in here, I'm not going to be putting glue all over the place. Hopefully, that is the theory. Anyway, yeah. And I might add that it really isn't necessary to use any kind of jig on this one. In fact, to be honest, I rarely, if ever, use jigs for biplanes. I just don't find them necessary. I know a lot of people like their fancy-ass, adjustable, expensive contraptions, but yeah, I never bother with them. Just find that eyeballing them works just fine. And this one has very positive locators, quite deep sockets in the wings, and everything lines up very nicely. So yeah, jig, just not necessary. So I get our glue in there. Ooh, that smells nice. Oh, sorry. Shouldn't say that. Okay. Get that over there. Now comes the tricky bit. And that's getting all these struts stuck in those little slots. So I'm going to start with the outer one, drop them in, and then sort of work them in as I go along, hopefully. It's the center ones that are usually kind of a bitch to get in there. Once you get them in, it's all good. Come on, in you go. Get in. You know you want to. Okay. I think that's got it. So, I'll attempt to pick this up without removing said wing. And then I can get a couple of rubber bands wrapped around the outer sides, outer struts, I should say. And that'll hold everything in place nicely. Here we go. And there we have it. I'm going to let that set up overnight, and then tomorrow the rigging madness will begin. Et voila! Top wing is firmly mounted. That's set overnight. It's nice and solid, and we're ready to begin rigging. Oh boy. Now I'm going to leave off the ailerons and the aileron push rods here until the end of the build because they're really not necessary at this stage, and I don't want them to get knocked off during the rigging process. So we'll have them at the end with all the other bits and pieces. And yeah, it's getting exciting, isn't it? It's looking like a biplane. Here we go, the moment of truth. The tools you're going to need are a hobby knife, a set of dividers, tweezers are always useful, and your adhesive of choice. Doesn't have to be epoxy, of course. Use whatever works for you. I'm using epoxy with a 3-hour setting time. Here, it's kind of sticky. That'll give me plenty of working time, and I also find it's stronger than 5-minute epoxy, which tends to set a bit rubbery and has less strength. Now, I'm going to work from the front to the back. Normally, on an aircraft with this much stagger on the wings, I would work from the back forward, and that way my wires that I've already done don't get in the way of the ones I'm trying to put in. But for the purposes of this video, I think it'll be much easier to see if I start from the front and work back. And I'm going to start with the flying wires. Now, flying wires support the aircraft wings while it's in flight, and the wings are under load. And in this case, they go from the top of the landing gear strut here to just inboard of the outer wing strut in those points there, and the same in the back. Now, landing wires, they go from the bottom of the cabin struts in this case, so here, and they go to the top of the bottom wing, just inboard of the strut again. And these support the wings when the aircraft is on the ground and the wings are not providing any lift. On most biplanes, they usually go from the top of the cabin struts here to the bottom wing. But in this case, they go from just here. So that's going to be a little bit easier to do. And also I might add that on the P-12 and F-4B, there are only 2 landing wires per side. Most aircraft typically will have 4 per side, or 2 sets of 2. So in this respect, this aircraft is going to be a little bit easier and quicker to rig. Now I'm using the 9/32, the largest of the etched rigging wire. And I did mention previously that they're stainless steel. I suspect they're probably nickel, actually. But one thing about them is they're damn hard to cut. And in fact, I've already taken the end off my hobby knife there, trying to cut a piece earlier just to test it out. So I do recommend wearing some sort of eye protection because, yeah, that could ping off and go in your eye, and that would not be fun. Oh, one other thing about the epoxy too, I'm just using an old piece of plexiglass to mix it up. I've already mixed some up there. And the nice thing about epoxy is that before it fully cures, you can actually clean that up with IPA, or isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol if you like. So yeah, I can clean that up and keep using this plexiglass until the cows come home, which is very odd because I don't actually have any cows. But anyway, let's carry on, shall we? So there we go. I've got my first 4 landing wires in place. Pretty happy with them. They're all nice and straight, nice and lined up. So I'm going to carry on with that process, get the rest of the rigging done, and hopefully, all going well in the next exciting installment, we'll have the tailplanes on, we'll have them rigged up, and I can start installing some of the last parts, the engine, the wheels, all those fun tidbits. Stay tuned. But before I sign off for the day, it's time for another fun-filled episode of the Gripe du jour. This is craft dinner. Probably very familiar to most Canadians, I'm sure. Not sure where else in the world it's sold. Apparently it's now called KD. But this stuff has been around since I was a kid, probably before. It's cheap, well, relatively cheap. Back in my college days, this was a staple diet because, well, it was all we could afford. It was 25 cents a box then. It's at least 8 times that price now. But what bugs me about this product? Well, it says on here, press in, tear back top. I don't know if this is some sort of long-standing joke from the manufacturers of craft dinner, but that's never worked. So let's give it a go, shall we? We'll just press that in and tear back the top. Son of a... Oh, what do you know? It did work. Yeah. Just press it in and tear back the top. Yeah. Simple, right? Can we not make packaging that actually works like it's supposed to? Apparently not. Well, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I'm sure you'll be relieved to hear. Now, I have to apologize that my upload schedule has kind of gone awry. It's a bit erratic. I fully admit that. And yes, I am very sorry about that. Unfortunately, it will probably remain so at least until the end of December. And the reason being is that I am doing a lot of hours during the week at work, which leaves me pretty much zero time to get any modeling done, let alone any videoing of modeling done. So this is confined to Saturdays and Sundays at the moment, and yeah, it's a bit of a stretch to try and get a video up every week. However, please do bear with me. This will change by the end of December. Work will slow down considerably, and I'll have much more time on my hands to upload regularly. So yes, hang in there. It'll get better, I promise. So until then, yeah, I'll get the next video up as soon as I can. And you know what to do. Like and subscribe and share and comment and become a member and buy some clothing or a mug. Christmas is coming up. Don't forget. Who could forget that? Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Always appreciate it. And bye for now.